Mr. Speaker, we have heard a lot about wokeness here today, but I want to focus on the woke democratic ideas that Republicans have blocked in this record-breaking closed Congress. I mean, ideas like protecting IVF, fighting fentanyl trafficking, and making sure lactose-intolerant students have something nutritious to drink at lunch. Wow. I mean, that those ideas are woke is crazy. 106 closed rules is a big number, a record-breaking number, but much more important is what that number represents. These ideas and all the other blocked amendments I highlighted would have helped everyday Americans. Is that woke? Is it woke to try and keep kids from getting asthma, to provide job training to veterans, to provide cancer screenings to firefighters? Is that woke? I don't know what my Republican colleagues are afraid of. Maybe they're afraid to vote no. Maybe they're afraid to vote yes. But this is Congress, Mr. Speaker. We're here to take hard votes. And this record-breaking number of closed rules is a disservice to the people the Republicans represent. And Mr. Speaker, while Republicans want to talk about being woke, I wish instead they'd wake the hell up and do the people's business. For example, I don't know, maybe pass a bill to prevent a government shutdown. You know, what we are doing today is merely a political exercise. Their obsession with trying to inject politics and culture wars into everything is getting really old. Almost old as the presidential nominee.
The Biden-Harris administration continues to vilify President Trump by calling him a threat to democracy, prompting political violence against him. Not one, but two assassination attempts. This must stop, and I hope that the temperature of the rhetoric is lowered and this latest example of unacceptable political violence never reoccurs. The Rules Committee will consider a variety of measures that break down some of the most egregious examples of woke lawmaking and the regulatory regime of the past few years. Whether it's forcing unrelated far-left policies on our financial markets or retirement plans, whether it's openly disregarding immigration law, whether it's eliminating consumer choice in the marketplace, or appeasing radical extremists at the behest of our greatest geopolitical allies, each of these bills addresses a problem that should never have happened.
I have to say that I am so disappointed because while Democrats condemn what happened this weekend, I'm disgusted by what happened in Florida. But I've heard nothing from Republicans about the political violence being incited by Donald Trump and his running mate against the people of Springfield, Ohio. The children of Springfield, Ohio. 33 separate bomb threats. Hospitals, schools, city employees targeted. Kids evacuated. Parents scared for their safety. Kids scared out of their minds because of what was said by the former president and his running mate. These are kids. These aren't presidents or former presidents. These are kids. 18 schools are now under police protection. The Republican governor of Ohio had to call in the state police. All is a direct consequence of loony conspiracy theories spread by Donald Trump and his running mate. Where are the calls on them to stop using rhetoric that puts people in danger? Anyways, I just feel compelled to point that out. We shouldn't be having a conversation about political violence and then ignoring the fact that the rhetoric at the top of the Republican ticket is leading to bomb threats, school closures, and evacuations. In my opinion, if someone can't condemn that, then they're part of the problem.
This woke mind virus doesn't stop there, which brings me to H.R. 5339, the Protecting American Investments from Woke Policies Act, protects the retirement savings of workers, retirees, and their families by rolling back woke ESG requirements that have nothing to do with the bottom line. The bill ensures that financial institutions are focused on maximizing returns in retirement plans rather than advancing the Biden-Harris administration's radical agenda at the expense of American workers.
Mr. Speaker, it is good to be back on the House floor with the gentlelady from Indiana. It's great to be with her, and so far she's allowing me to actually speak and hasn't called for me to be silenced. The last time we debated, I stated an uncomfortable fact about he who shall not be named, and the gentlelady had me silenced and had my words stricken from the congressional record. We have a presumptive nominee for president facing 88 felony counts, and we're being prevented from even acknowledging it. These are not alternative facts. These are real facts. A candidate for President of the United States is on trial for sending a hush money payment to a porn star to avoid a sex scandal during his 2016 campaign, and then fraudulently disguising those payments in violation of the law. He's also charged with conspiring to overturn the election. He's also charged with stealing classified information, and a jury has already found him liable for rape in a civil court. And yet, in this Republican-controlled House, it's okay to talk about the trial, but you have to call it a sham.
We take down his words.
It's okay to say the jury is rigged.
Mr. Speaker, I demand that his words be taken down.
It's okay to say the court is corrupt.
Gentleman will suspend.
But not Trump is corrupting the rule of law. But you just got to love that, Mr. Speaker. The party of free speech that rails against woke this and cancel culture that and calls us snowflakes, they can't handle it when someone comes down here and tells the truth. And they try to silence the people they disagree with. It's really quite stunning.
It's very simple. The House Republicans have passed their Veterans Appropriations Bill. We passed it above the request of President Biden or whoever is drafting the president's requests at this hour. And the people that have had a lot to say in this chamber today, they all decided to vote no. They voted no for our veterans' health care. They voted no for opportunities to expand veterans' benefits. They did it for politics. They did it because it wasn't their idea. But this House Republican majority has funded the VA above and beyond President Biden's requests for the last 2 fiscal years, and we're very proud of that fact, and we will continue to do so.
Oh, my God, Mr. Speaker, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, to be honest with you, there's just so much there. First of all, let me just say, let me read from a letter that the Secretary of Defense sent to all of us here in Congress. He said, a 6-month CR would set us significantly behind in meeting our pacing challenge highlighted in our national defense strategy, the People's Republic of China. The PRC is the only global competitor with both the intent and capability to change the international order. The PRC does not operate under CRs. Our ability to execute our strategy is contingent upon our ability to innovate and modernize to meet this challenge, which cannot happen under a CR. Asking the Defense Department to compete with the PRC, let alone manage conflicts in Europe and the Middle East, while under a lengthy CR, ties our hands behind our back while expecting us to be agile and to accelerate progress. So that's what the Secretary of Defense sent to Congress. So Republicans are here with a bunch of fake anti-China bills that will never become law. But what they are actually doing is hurting our national security. This approach, your CR, is hurting our national security. And that's not just, the Secretary of Defense saying that. As I said earlier, the Republican chairman of the House Armed Services Committee has said it, and is why he's opposing the Republican CR. So let's get that straight. This anti-woke stuff is just weird. Republicans still can't even tell us what woke means. It means whatever they want it to mean, I guess. And what these bills really are about is dividing our country, trying to make Americans hate each other, trying to keep people angry heading into the election. That's what this is all about. The so-called End Woke Higher Education Act is about Republicans using students as pawns in their weird culture wars. The Prioritizing Economic Growth Over Woke Policies Act is all about bailing out massive corporations. Sounds familiar? Republicans are obsessed with helping the rich and powerful. Another bill attempts to just gloss over the fact that Palestinians even exist. In their pursuit against wokeness, Republicans apparently now want to just say there's no Gaza, there's no disputed territories in the West Bank. It's all Israel, and Palestinians don't matter at all. I find that totally awful and offensive, quite frankly. Another bill to target diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm not sure which one of those words they're against. Probably all three, if I had to guess. More bills to divide us. More bills to fearmonger and try to push their xenophobic and bigoted views. More bills to demonize immigrants and politicize violence against women. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Mr. Speaker, my colleagues across the aisle, they've expressed outrage over the inclusion of the SAVE Act in today's continuing resolution. But let's be clear. The American people overwhelmingly disagree with their position. According to 2022 YouGov poll. Nearly 2/3 of Americans support requiring proof of citizenship to vote in elections. And even more telling, 48% of Democrats, yes, Democrats, agree that proof of U.S. citizenship should be required. In 2022, a Gallup poll further underscores this. 79% of Americans favor photo identification requirements to vote, and that includes 53% of Democrat voters. And just this year, the Pew Research Center found that 81% of Americans want all voters to show government-issued photo identification to cast a vote. 69% of Democrats back this common sense safeguard. Why won't they? That's a question. What are you afraid of to require someone to prove who they say that they are? These aren't poison pills. This isn't partisanship. They are overwhelmingly bipartisan views shared by a vast majority of common sense Americans. Yet my colleagues would rather cater to a fringe element in this country within their party than listen to the clear will of the American people. Instead of supporting reasonable safeguards to protect our elections and prevent foreign interference, they continue to block widely supported measures. They claim to be defenders against foreign interference in our election, yet today they turn their back on protecting the sanctity of the vote.
The other thing is, on this SAVE Act, it is true that a military ID alone is not sufficient to meet the criteria of your SAVE Act. So, and is that how we thank the men and women who serve our country? In fact, many Americans don't have the kind of identification required to be able to comply with the SAVE Act. But that's even beside the point, because as Republican after Republican have said that this is a gimmick, this is going nowhere, this is just a soundbite during an election. This is not real. This is all theater. That's not me saying it. It's Republican after Republican saying that. And in terms of helping our veterans, let me tell you, the Republicans keep talking about the $112 billion in the bill for VA care. But guess what? These dollars were already provided in last year's bill. Both VA and OMB say that these dollars are insufficient and that they need an additional $12 billion or our veterans' care will be affected. That is what has been said to Republicans and Democrats over and over again. This bill provides zero additional dedicated funding for vets with toxic exposures. Zero. And I don't understand why, when you were trying to fix some of the omissions in the manager's amendment that was put in the Rules Committee, why this could not have been added. These are our veterans. These are people who have served our country. These are people who have been exposed to toxic chemicals, who are battling with all kinds of illnesses and diseases. The least we can do is make sure the funding is there so they can get adequate health care. This bill provides none of that $12 billion. I don't understand what my Republican friends are thinking. We have 3 weeks left to ensure that our government doesn't shut down. 3 weeks. And instead of working with Democrats to keep the government open, what we have here is an awful, cynical, partisan, continuing resolution that has exactly zero chance of becoming law. Hell, as I said earlier, it may not even pass the Republican-controlled Congress. It's like Republicans won't even try to get the job done. They passed 4 appropriations bills out of 12. I mean, that's it. And they want a trophy for that. I mean, it is pathetic how little work has been done.
Too many institutions of higher education have cowered to the mob of protesters, often compromising the safety and well-being of their students. Freedom of speech is under attack on our campuses nationwide, and it's our students who are paying the price. This mindset weakens what has historically been the strength of America: free-flowing and open debate at our institutions of learning. We must not let campus activists, woke faculty, and partisan administrators turn post-secondary education into DEI indoctrination camps. Denying speech undermines the very fabric of the nation and is against everything our founders intended. Time and time again, this administration has prioritized, again, an ESG agenda and initiatives that are against the well-being of workers and American businesses. Democrat-appointed bureaucrats are attempting to use regulation to create climate and social policy in our financial markets, ultimately raising costs and limiting growth. This legislation aims to stop unnecessary political reporting requirements for companies, make federal regulators more transparent, and reduce the SEC's power over shareholders.
Here's more of the truth, and let's see if I'm allowed to talk this time. Mr. Speaker, under Republican control, the House of Representatives has become a place where trivial issues get debated passionately and important ones not at all. And what we're dealing with today is a bunch of weird, wacky, poorly drafted culture war nonsense. This is all just a waste of time. These bills aren't going anywhere. It's not even political theater. It's theater of the absurd. The government shuts down in a few days. And instead of actually working with Democrats to keep the lights on, instead of actually doing something to fix the problems that the American people want us to fix, my Republican friends are doing nothing. The roof is on fire, and instead of calling 911, they're sweeping the floors. I mean, it's beyond nuts. Last night in the Rules Committee, during our hearing on this rule, I had some Republican members telling me they didn't like my tone. They didn't like the fact that I said we don't share the same values. I'm sorry I hurt people's feelings, Mr. Speaker, but the truth is the truth. And we don't all believe in the same things. When it comes to my friends on the other side of the aisle in this chamber, we really don't share the same values. I know many of my friends on the Republican side are nice and good people, but their ideas are not nice and are not good. And let me just give you a couple of examples. Democrats want to make sure that our kids go to college and get a good education that prepares them for the workforce. And instead of working with us, Republicans go on and on about woke this and woke that in our schools. Apparently, anyone who wants to teach facts is woke nowadays. They want colleges to stop being, quote, woke, even though they can't quite define what that even means. It's all political BS, Mr. Speaker. Another example, Democrats actually want an economy that works for everyone. And thanks to the Biden-Harris administration, we are fighting to grow the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. Not Republicans, not Republicans. They're talking about woke economic policies. I don't even know what they're talking about, what they mean. But you want to know what people back home talk to me about? They're asking me, why are Republicans trying to cut taxes for millionaires and billionaires? Why are Republicans trying to go after Social Security and Medicare? Another example, Mr. Speaker, Democrats actually care about strengthening and protecting the Violence Against Women Act. Not Republicans. A majority of their conference voted against extending the Violence Against Women Act. Let me say that again. A majority of their conference voted against extending the Violence Against Women Act. And now they have the nerve to come down here and talk about violence against women and use it as part of their sick ploy to go after immigrants? Give me a break. Their bill is so poorly written that it could hurt survivors of domestic violence. And I could go right down the list. It is obvious to me that at some point the RNC talking points went out to everybody. And those talking points said woke, woke, woke. And so now we have to waste time on this trash. It's just another week of the GOP circus. And as I've said before, calling this a clown show is an insult to actual working clowns. But most of all, it is an insult to the American people for Republicans to use these hallowed halls and to spend hours and hours of time this week on these absurd, awful bills. Again, none of them are going anywhere. The reason to be in Congress is to help people. That means putting people over politics. It means not caving in to the most extreme members of your party. And it means getting stuff done. What a radical idea, getting stuff done. None of these bills, as I said, are going anywhere. And yet here we are playing these absurd, ridiculous games. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve my time.